Frank Trejo stories. Who wants to kick it off? Back in 1997, right? This video just popped up this week. A guy from France who I met back in the 90s because he was training over at Nackard School. He just popped out with this video a couple years ago of that demo. That was the weekend. Steve Stewart, you tested for fifth. That was the old Baltimore, you know.
It was a costume camp. Costume camp.
It was it was a costume camp.
Were you a Klingon?
No, I was an airline pilot.
Paul Quick was a Klingon. Paul Quick was a Klingon at that one. Paul Quick was on the elevator dressed as a Klingon. I walked onto the elevator, stood right next to him. I knew this dude for years. He was one of Brian Thomas's students. And I'm standing there like, there's a Klingon here. And he goes, hey, Dan. I was like, oh, Paul. Yeah. December of 96, where we had the Masters demo, right? Where that was, and it's funny, the way I've been describing it is that we all knew him, but that was kind of like a unknown Sabora Chan went out and crushed it in his demo. It was Sabora. Who was it? Sabora, James, Joe Palonzo, Regis Burkett. Who else was in that demo? Was Ivy in it?
No, just us. That was it.
That was who it was.
Yeah.
And Sabora killed it in that demo.
Was that the same camp that Tostin did the bed of nails? Same camp?
So Tostin had guys bend rebar around his neck, right? He laid on a bed of nails, and then someone took a sledgehammer. It was Kevin Kaliga and Paul Carney, these two big dudes, right? And they broke a cinder block on his chest, and then they broke a cinder block on his head. And the thing that I remember about them breaking a cinder block on his head was Frank Trejo's Dennis Tostin impression of him having a cinder block broken over his head. Trejo all weekend was going, ah! But I tell you what, that was pretty impressive. He took a sledgehammer to a cinder block on his head, you know. So yeah, that was a good one. And then Dennis Nackard did a demo, and I remember that one. He pulled me up, had me demo on that. So I demoed for Joe Bridenstine, then I demoed for Dennis Nackard, and then they called Frank Trejo up, and we all know damn well that Frank Trejo did not have anything planned. You know, so he goes walking out, and there's a video, I believe it was taken by the lovely Mrs. Saul. You actually see me. I go like this, right? And I run away because I know he's going to pick me. So I go stand behind a couple people, and I'm ducking, right? And Trejo walks out. He goes, he looks in the crowd. And I remember we locked eyes, and he goes, let me get Danny. And I walked out, and Trejo did his demo on me. And you know what? As big as he was, as big as those mitts were, of the three guys that demoed on me, he had hands down the best control. You know, and that video popped up on Facebook this week. You guys saw it. Dennis Pose had a good one. He goes, on that last technique, shut your eyes and just listen to the timing, you know, and then, you know, listening to Trejo pop it out. But my favorite part of that, and these are the things I didn't realize at the time because I didn't know him as well, was the gigantic smile on Frank Trejo's face when he was done and everybody was clapping for him. That was so that I said I'm going to try my best not to shed a tear in this, so I'm doing well right now. So somebody else take it away with the Frank Trejo story. Angelo, what do you got?
My stories are different than you guys. He used to hang out and party with you guys, and you guys were like the deviant behavior guys.
Yeah.
Out here in LA, he would always keep himself checked behind closed doors around all the guys. So we didn't get to do all the crazy that you guys got to do with them on vacation when he was out of town.
So are you saying that when he needed to blow off steam, he came to the East Coast?
Or Canada.
I mean, all the stories that we got were, we never got in fights and stuff. He never gotten crazy. All he used to do is just drink himself to sleep every night at the internationals, playing the guitar with Huck and everybody. You know, I mean,
he did that with us too.
It was always
and us too.
Never yet. There was never any crazy stuff here in LA. All the crazy stuff happened in other places that we heard about.
I'll tell you what, that was part of what attracted me to Frank Trejo because I was like 18, 19, some kid from Philly. So I was a little more unscrupulous than I am now. Let's just say that.
Oh, really?
Acceptance from Mark Lawler and his best friend Brian Thomas was huge to us, right? So when Brian Thomas and Mark Lawler found out, that Brian Thomas immediately had a very disappointed look on his face, and I felt bad that Brian Thomas was disappointed in us. And Mark Lawler's response is he went,
Then I came to the room and helped you drink it.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's Trejo, and you guys were all jamming in the library, and somebody came up unrelated to the camp, and I guess got mouthy with Trejo. Am I remembering that? Is this a Maryland camp? Am I remembering this story?
No, that was in Boston.
No, that was that. You want to hear the story? Because it's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fuzzy on the details. I just remember being there.
Brian Thomas and I came down to the lobby. The bar was in the hotel lobby. And we were going out to Night Shift, one of our favorite places to go in Baltimore. Frank was there, and we were having a couple drinks. This Canadian guy comes up, and he wants to arm wrestle me. And I don't want to arm wrestle you. I don't want to arm wrestle you. We have a few drinks. He's annoying. We go out to Night Shift, come back a few hours later. Everybody's in the bar. Frank's in the bar. Joe B's got his bass sitting in the corner with his little amp. And we start up the drinking again, and we didn't know this Canadian guy had been a pain in the ass for like the past 3 hours, asking people to arm wrestle him, just being an asshole.
I didn't know him.
Not you, Steve. Not you.
I was there, but it wasn't me.
So all Canadians don't know each other, Steve?
We walk over to the lobby where everybody's sitting around. This Canadian guy comes over to me again. Steve, no offense. And, you're the guy I wanted to arm wrestle. Frank jumps up. You asshole, I'm sick of your stuff. He just flips, jumps up. Joe Bridenstine's back with his bass. He goes, Mark, Brian, help. I'm in front of Frank, and Brian's in front of this Canadian guy. Frank's trying to get to this mother. We're holding him back. Me and Brian are in between. Frank's got a glass in his hand and comes around and goes bam with the glass, hits the guy in the side of the head. The ice flies up everywhere. We push this guy down the hallway. You better get out of here. Frank sits down. He starts kind of sobbing like, God damn, buddy. Those of you that were there, remember that. Was that the right story? Was that the right story, Brian, or was I have a different night?
No, that was it. That was it.
So I was in the hotel that night, but I was at another area with other people. But the reports from that weekend, there was two things. Number one, people were telling me that Mark Lawler and Brian Thomas were telling this guy to leave Frank Trejo alone with a genuine look of concern on their face. Like, you need to please stay away from this guy.
Frank was going to beat his ass. Frank was pissed.
The other thing I heard was when Trejo was at the end, when he was crying like that, he apparently he was going like this. He's going, I'm sorry, I didn't kick his ass.
And you know what? From that story, I don't remember the glass in hand. I thought he just took his big mitt and just swatted him. But you were holding him back, so I won't argue.
The glass was plastic. Plastic glass.
So it compressed as it made impact on the side of the guy's head.
I still don't know how he got his arm around and hit the guy. Me and Brian were both in between him and the guy. And this guy, man, he was just like, what? What did I do? I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
He was completely clueless.
That triggered a memory for me. Talk about Frank Trejo's mitts, bring it on to the mat. And we were up in Connecticut at a camp one year, and Trejo had me up. And what's funny, I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty rhythmic dude. I think I can move all right. But then when I was with Trejo, he always made me feel like I had cement shoes on, right? And I had the whole pressure of like, don't look stupid in front of everybody. Don't look stupid in front of everybody. I'm standing across from Frank Trejo. I know he's going to make me look stupid already, And so I feel like I have cement on my feet. And the drill was, I'll never forget, is throw the right. And I throw the right. And Trejo just goes like this. He just fades back and swings that big, gigantic arm of his. And he hit me in the back of the ear. So I immediately, whee! I got that going, and I'm kind of a little nervous. But that's what made me think about that was Frank Trejo just by accident blasting me in the ear with that gigantic hand of his. You know.
I don't
Hey,
know.
man, you remember?
I'm sorry, Steve. Steve, you remember the time we went out in London, Ontario, looking for Patrick Robinson because he owed Frank money?
Because he owed him for all that.
We go out driving around London, Ontario, looking for this guy for Frank to collect. Remember that?
His studio, but his studio had gone under. I got a call from this flower shop, and they said, "Do you know Pat Robinson?" And I goes, "Yep." I said, "Well, how do you know me?" And the guy said, "Well, because at Pat Robinson's school, I saw a picture of you and Pat Robinson, so I knew who you were. But he owes me over $1,000 for sending flowers to all these women's houses."
Oh, the three of us went out looking for it. Remember?
Yep.
Me, you, and Frank. We got in the car and started driving around London on Gizzy.
Steve, did he end up as a bouncer at a bar up there or something, Patrick Robinson? Because I remember one of the camps where we went looking for somebody, and we went to one of the bars up there, and I think it had 2 floors.
Yes, Robinson Hall. Yep.
He
Is
was
that
a
it?
big dude, Patrick Robinson. He's pretty big dude. He was pretty
Yeah.
chiseled.
Yeah.
I feel like we were on the hunt looking for somebody. I forget who was all part of that group, but we ended up at a bar. That was the name that was resonating in my head. But
Maybe you were with us. This has got to be, I don't know, 25
20 years ago, over 20 years ago.
You might have been with us, Brian. I remember it, but I don't remember everything.
I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone 20 years ago. Maybe
You guys
not.
know all those years you guys came up to Canada, right?
They were
all
some of
those
the best.
awesome camps.
Oh yeah.
So, One year,
They were the best.
Frank. So 1 year, Frank's coming up and he says, "Steve Reno, I'll get my own ticket up and you just reimburse me." And I said, "All right." So I had Leon J, Dan the Beast Severin, a few other people there headlining it. And we're all sitting this is at the Hilton, next behind the Delta. So we're all sitting in the bar, and I said, "Jesus Christ, I don't know where Frank is. I haven't heard from him yet. No, he hasn't shown up." So I said, "I'm going to call my school and see if Frank left a message." So I called my studio, and they says, "You have 5 messages." They said, first message, "Steve Reno, it's Trejo. I'm in Toronto Airport. Where's the seminar?" Second message, "Steve Reno, where are you?" Third message, "Steve Reno, I'm at the airport." Fourth message, "Steve Reno." Fifth message, "Trejo guy. How are we going to know what he looks like? He'll be all by himself, sitting on a bench with his head down." I had another one where I had to go across the border to Detroit to get Trejo. He showed up a day early. He says, "Steve Reno, I'm at the airport." And I said, "Frank, I had your flight booked for tomorrow." He said, "Well, they let me on the plane." So I'm here in Detroit, and they won't let me get on the other plane to come to London. So I said, "All right, I'll come get you." So I go over the border. Detroit, it's like 2 hours from here. I collect them, and I said, "Okay, Frank, we're going through customs." He said, "I don't have my wallet." And I said, "You don't have a passport, a driver's license, anything?" "No." And I said, "Okay, when we get up to the customs person, just nod. Don't talk, just nod." So we get up, it's a female custom person. They said, "Citizenship, Canadian." I said, "He's American." And she looks at him. "Is that right?" He goes, and she said, "Can I have some ID?" So I give her mine, and I said, "He doesn't have it with him. It's across the border, and he's going to collect it." She looks at him. "Is that right?" He goes, she said, "Why don't you have your ID with him?" Frank's going, so I'm saying, I'm talking for Frank, so he won't talk, he'll fuck it up. So finally I said, it's a surprise, and we're going to surprise this person for lunch. And they got his ID over there. They took it by accident when we had a seminar in Detroit. So we're going to cross the border, get it, and come right back. She looks over at Frank. is that the truth? He goes, so she said, go ahead.
Let him through.
The only time, man.
That's awesome.
That reminds me, we were in a hotel room in 2005-ish. You know, we were in a hotel room, and it was recent enough that 9/11 was still fresh on our minds. And Trejo pulls out this knife, and he goes, "You see this knife?" He goes, "I've taken this on the plane with me every single time." That's Frank Trejo. He's the only guy I know that carries a knife on a plane during high alert, and everyone just kind of, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Remember when he forgot? Remember when he missed this flight and he had to come back to your house, Steve? That was another one.
That was the swimming pool.
Brian would always stay a couple
I got video of Frank in my
Steve's
swimming
house.
pool with some noodles.
Trejo's just floating in the pool. We're all talking and doing our
1996.
Yeah.
Was that 96? Is that what that was?
Yeah, 96.
Wow.
We did the first WKK demo team thing at the Delta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
remember that. All right, so Angelo, you still haven't told one. Come on, you got to give us a Trejo story. Bring it on to Matt so we can share some on to Matt stories. Otherwise, it's just going to be an hour worth of drinking stories.
A good one is when we did the internationals. There's that video. You seen that video with all of us doing internationals in 97, 98? When Frank Trejo did the Ed Parker thing. Frank Trejo took the Ed Parker slot, and he came down the gauntlet afterwards. But we went and we rehearsed this thing. And with Frank, he was so meticulous about what technique to throw. And he goes, okay, I'm going to hit you here. I'm going to hit you here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so we rehearsed probably for about 4 or 5 hours. And then all of a sudden, when we got up there, time to do it, and here comes Frank. We're all ready to go. Frank totally just ad-libbed everything. So he told us to throw a left-right punch. He would kick you before you even got there. And if you watch the video closely, he grabs everybody's face and he rips their face and throws them on the floor. So everybody's just throwing the attack, had no idea what Frank was going to do to him. And if you watch the video with that in mind, you'll crack up laughing that we were actually getting hurt and we were getting hit. And then afterwards, he just kind of said, I didn't know what to do. So I just killed you guys. That's all. So watch that video again with that in mind, that Frank just did what he wanted, but we were all highly choreographed. So that was a fun story.
That's awesome.
When we post this, I'll keep a log of what videos we should put links to. So that.
Hey, do you guys remember, Dan, do you remember the dueling banjos I did with Trejo?
I saw that video.
I know the Michael Jackson one. The Michael Jackson one was great.
there's one before that. In 2005, dueling banjos. It was Frank's idea. I was grading for my 7. And so Frank went at my studio. He says, we're going to do something together. And I goes, what do you want to do? I don't know, but we're going to do something together. So he starts sitting down there and he says, we'll do 2-man set, but we'll set it up like, I'll get one on you. You got one on me. So we put it all together. We go out there to do it, so we're egging each other on, and it's building up to dueling banjos, and all of a sudden, we start doing 2-man set. We get halfway through it. We're going back and forth with our arms ready to do the second half, and Frank goes, I don't remember where we are. So we just ad-libbed the rest of it, and but it all worked out well. But that was his idea for dueling banjos, as well as his idea for the Michael Jackson one. That was all Frank, both of those.
That's awesome.
So there
he was a big teddy bear.
Trejo would come to my house, and all Trejo would do, what he would do is he would stay at Dave Medina's at the beginning of the week, and he would do seminars at Dave Medina's and Dennis Knacker's and Mark Schiffman's. And then after whatever seminar was there, I would always be on Friday, and I would do my seminar on Friday, and then he would spend the weekend at my house. So we split time. And for years, Frank Trejo, I always tell people, when Frank Trejo stays at your house, he sits in your chair and holds on to your remote control, and you watch what he wants to watch, which turns out is a lot of fishing. Frank Trejo loved to watch fishing and Black Belt TV. I can't tell you how many Shotokan forums we watched together. And one time we watched Planet of the Apes, the new one, not the Charlton Heston one. But the other thing he would do is he would watch YouTube videos of old blues musicians, right, and just old musicians in general, like David Lee Roth's "Just the Gigolo." I didn't know that was a cover. He's like, hey, Danny, come here. You know, and the guy's name was like, probably like Tennessee Slim or something like that. This is Tennessee Slim singing, and then some old guy with a guitar, just a gigolo, and that was what Frank Trejo would do. He was so musically inclined. That's the thing, is he was so musically inclined. I remember one time we were at a camp, right, and it was a typical Frank Trejo camp, so we were up late, right, and the next morning, he and I were rooming together. Right, and I didn't care. I just like hanging out with the guy. But I was like, I know, right? That's ridiculous. So anyway, we do the thing. We're hanging out. Next morning, I'm asleep, right? And I just hear this beautiful music playing. Guitar. And next thing you know, nothing but chords. Get up. It's time for breakfast. Oh, I said, no, I'm going to sleep. The first class is at 10 o'clock. I'm going to sleep till 9:57. Get up. You got to have breakfast. No. Danny, get up. And so we got up and had breakfast.
Guys, but after Mr. Frank had lost some of his fingers and whatnot, one of the times I talked to him on the phone, which wasn't that often, I was trying to turn him on to an open D tuning on the guitar, because all the old, you mentioned the blues guys, most of them play with open guitar tuning. So when they play, they don't have to finger chords. You just hold down with one finger and you're automatically in tune. So a lot of your old blues are either open E or open D tunings. So he was asking me, what can I do about that? I said, listen, let's get you tuned to an open D. You just take the third string, tune it like the first one, take the last string, turn it to the first one. Okay. Trick is the G string you got to tune up, man. He's like, oh, this is too hard. I couldn't get him to do it. I was trying to convince him it's not hard at all. I'll do it with you on the phone, man. It's going to be fun because you only need one finger. You can hold a bottle. A lot of the blues guys play with a bottle, and I tried to get him to do that because I really feel if I could have got him to, he really would have had a lot of fun, but I couldn't talk him into it.
See, now that triggers one of my all-time favorite memories. Was the night we were out, and it was one of the last times Trejo was up my way. And the night ended up, there's four of us that I remember. There was Brian, there was myself, there was Mark Lawler, who just kept saying all night long, man, I can't believe in 2 weeks I'm going to turn 50. That was right before your 50th birthday, and that's what you were saying. But then you and Frank Trejo went up on stage together. I mean, it's a little bar, so it's not like it was on stage like in a Coliseum, right? It was just a bar, neighborhood bar. But you guys got up there and took the instruments from whoever was playing, and you guys started playing and singing together. And that, to this day, is one of the greatest nights I ever had. So much fun.
And he stumbled out of that bar that night. He couldn't walk, Trejo. He was not in good shape.
Hey, that reminds me, Mark, you would know this. Remember when Shelley Raston Band, we used to have them at our camp sometimes?
Yeah.
Hey, Mark? And then remember you and Frank got up there and did a couple of numbers? I got that on video.
Yeah.
And you did Crazy Train.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I forgot about that night. That was downstairs underneath the hotel,
in the
right?
basement of the Hilton. I had a private area with a stage and everything.
Yeah, man, I do remember
you and
that.
Frank got up there and did Crazy Train.
And Mark, I think I actually have the pictures and video of the jam session with Trejo and you that Dan was describing from that American Bar and Grill.
I know Dan sent it to me back when it happened. I think I have it somewhere too because we did Cold Shot by Stevie Ray Vaughan.
That was awesome.
The photos pop up on Facebook. That was I'm pretty sure that was after Facebook was around. So the photos are still up there somewhere.
But there's a video too, which is the nice thing.
Of it, yeah.
There's a video of it.
I don't remember there being a video of it.
I think I have it. I'll see if I can pull it out.
Yeah, I'll look for that too. I know I got it somewhere.
That's funny.
A Connecticut camp that we went to in '97. Well, the historic drive up there, I think that's the right camp, but I guess they didn't have any rooms left. So they put us in a conference room, and it was me, Danny, Trejo, Dennis Kelly, and who was the other person?
Steve Volker. He was one of Mark Schiffman's students at the time.
Yeah. And we're all sleeping in this conference room. And, being the rowdy bunch that we are, we're drinking and we're having fun. And of course we're being loud. So security gets called on us. And, you get the knock on the door. And, suddenly the lights go off. Everyone puts their blankets, goes to sleep. Trejo throws a blanket over his head, walks over, opens the door. And if I remember correctly, it was like this little old guy, this little old security
He looked
guy.
like the Six Flags dancing guy. He was the most non-threatening little old man.
And then you got Trejo with his blanket over his head, pretending to be all sleepy. And the security guy says to keep it down. And he goes, shut the fuck up! And then closes the door.
Well, he was negotiating with the guy for a little while because we all had our blankets up to our chins and we're beep 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 with full beers next to us, right? And Trejo's going, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not us. We're karate guys. We got to sleep. We got to train in the morning. That's not. And the guy's like, I'm not messing around. You guys need to be quiet or you're out of here. And I don't know who you're talking about. That's not us. We're being quiet. And that's why he did that. And then he turned around. Hey, shut up. Yeah, that was
the same camp.
Same weekend as that was the same weekend as the sandwich story, which I'm not going to tell the sandwich story. I'm not telling the sandwich story anymore. If you haven't heard it, you're not going to hear it because I'm not telling it anymore. But I will tell you the story around the sandwich story. Is he was telling us about the time that him and Sam Estrada, who I don't know Sam Estrada, I just know Sam Estrada from that name. Angela, we've talked about this. You know Sam Estrada.
I'll shoot you a picture of Sam. I know Sam well.
So he goes. Me and Sam Estrada went to Hawaii to train with Mr. Chow. And he goes, and whatever you do, don't mention. They told me whatever you do, don't mention Ed Parker's name. He goes, so I got there and said, hi, I'm Frank Trejo. I'm a student of Ed Parker. And he goes, and they all went like this. They went, oh, Ed Parker, I remember that guy. He was a boxer. And that was his story. So I don't know Sam Estrada. I don't know if Sam Estrada is still with us. Maybe he can confirm that story. But that's the story he was telling us.
That's a true story. Because I think I told you that I had lunch with Sam Estrada about a year ago. And he told me that exact same story, that he went to Hawaii and that everybody there was all pissed off and they didn't like Mr. Parker. And Frank did mention that he was with Parker, and those guys started training with Frank, and then they started like really working hard on him and started hitting him. And so Frank got so much pressure that he actually packed and they left because they were getting so much from those guys.
Really?
Yeah. It was interesting. The old Sam Estrada story of him and Trejo. Yeah. That was a good one.
He got himself into. I was on the phone with Dennis Knatzer like maybe a year and a half ago, and he was telling me about how they were doing. This is not my story, but you'll see why I'm sharing it. They were doing the photo shoot for like maybe book 4, Infinite Insights book 4 or book 5 or something like that. So this is back in the 80s. There's no internet, and it's not like today where we have phone. You got to have a photographer with the thing and the lights and the whole bit and the whole setup. No editing and any of that stuff. Right in the middle, the lights go out in the Pasadena studio because Trejo didn't pay the electric bill. So apparently, according to Dennis Knatzer, he within 3 hours he had the power back on because that was Frank Trejo in 1980, whatever, with no internet, no phones, and everything like that. He ended up making it work in the end, but he also was the guy that caused the lights to go out. So that one was amusing.
All right, I got one here. I got one story. I remember when we opened up Yosh and I opened up our school back in the day, we were talking about how do we get new members. And we were all sitting there and Frank says, man, it's easy. You just got to talk to the guys and just listen to what they say and I'll sign them up. So we're sitting there just talking, having lunch. And this one dude walks on the door. He goes, yeah, I'm interested in taking karate lessons. So Frank says, okay, let me do this. So Frank gets up and he walks up to the guy and he says, hey man, what's going on? What do you want to do? He goes, I want to take karate. He goes, what kind of karate do you want to do? He goes, I want to do Shotokan. So Trejo says, I teach Shotokan. The office is laughing, right? He's like, yeah. And he goes, I do a little bit of boxing and stuff. He goes, you ever box? He goes, yeah, I box. He goes, well, who do you train with? And this guy looks and he goes, I train with a guy named Frank Trejo. And Frank Trejo goes, Frank's look, how he goes, he looked at me and Yosh in the office and gave us that look, that eye that goes up. And he goes, That mother. He goes, I'm gonna kick his ass, man. Bring him over here with you next time. We'll see. You'll train with me from this point on. So the guy gets in there and Frank signs us up. Never told him a day that he was Frank Trejo and the guy was lying, but he signed him up. And then the next week when he came into class, Frank was teaching the class. And the guy looked at Frank and just said, "Oh," he goes, "I'm Frank Trejo." And the guy Frank grabbed him, pulled him back into class, and said, "No, man, you're good." And he started. And he probably trained with us for about 2 years after that. It was fun.
Not only did he lie, but he didn't have it within himself to know he was lying to the person about the person.
About the person, yes. But it was so funny when Frank said, "Yeah, man, I'm kicking Frank Trejo's ass. He's a fucker." I'll never forget that. That was funny.
He was very much a practical joker. You know, with that, you talk about that look. He'd shoot you that eyeball.
That one that you lift an eyebrow up.
Yeah. He was giving you the "I'm messing with this person" look.
But you guys had it so much nicer with Frank because when he went away, he played. Nobody saw him, nobody knew him, and he had a good time with you guys. In LA, he never was like that. He was always like everyone looked up to Frank in a different way. So that when the parties happened, he shut the party down to the real private people, and everybody else was like, "No, you need to go to bed and train. You know, you need to go train. You got to train tomorrow. You got to compete tomorrow." And
I came up on the East Coast.
But you know what? Frank never mentioned West Coast. He'd only talk about Mark and Dan and Brian.
Well, see, he didn't.
He was up to see me.
He didn't party out here like that. Never. He only partied with you guys. So we know Frank a little bit differently than you guys do. And you guys
what can I say? We're a heck of a lot of fun.
You guys are.
Hey, Angela.
Yeah.
You heard my 10 minutes meditation Frank Trejo story?
Oh, about
you should tell it anyway.
Are you talking
Mark.
about having a rough night the night before, so that was the workout?
We're up till, God, I don't know, 4 a.m. drinking tequila, of course. This is in King of Prussia, and back in the day when Nackert was still in the WKKA, those camps were like 200-300 people. They were big. So
they were big camps.
We walk out into the this next morning. I think his class was 9:30 or 10. Like 50, 60 people more waiting for him. He walks out. He's like, "Okay, man, everybody lay down." Everybody lays down. He lays flat on his back and goes, "All right, man, 10 minutes meditation."
Hey, Mark, did they have all those rooms for like, weren't they like animal theme rooms?
Oh, yeah, that club there. Remember that?
The Underground was the name of that club.
He was
Remember that night?
Frank said he was in an African room.
Remember that night we walked in?
Tigers and elephants.
That girl had her bachelor party in there, and they had all these exotic dancers, and Brian Thomas was up pretending he was one of them. Remember that? We're putting dollars in his pants.
So I remember that exotic dancer because Brian and I were in the nightclub. We were not old enough to be in a nightclub. Somehow Brian had an ironclad fake ID. I don't know how I got in there. But anyway, we're in this nightclub, and there's the stripper going crazy in the Shadows nightclub in the King of Prussia area. But anyway, so Brian and I, we're like 18, 19. We're like, it's kind of weird. Now at 45, I'll be like, look at the stripper. But I was 19. I was like, I'm not looking at dudes. And I went in the bathroom and hid from this guy. Don't you know, when the stripper is done his performance, he walks into the bathroom, gets into a conversation with Brian and I, and we talked to him while he was dressing out of his costume. So we're literally, you guys are going to see my Beavis and Butthead pants, but anyway, he's literally like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" And he wasn't like, "My name is Vance." He was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Toby." And he's taking his clothes off, and Brian and I are just kind of like, "Hey man, nice to meet you." Reminds me of the first time we met Frank Trejo. The first time we met Frank Trejo was in Baltimore right after Ed Parker died, and at first we saw all we had was a description of Frank Trejo. So Brian and I, we saw Arturo Petit. Talk about Kempo history. We saw Arturo Petit. We were like, "Is that Frank Trejo?" I don't think that's Frank Trejo. And then sure enough, we walk right into the dressing room, and there's Trejo getting dressed once again. That was like a theme. I can't tell you how many lessons I had while Trejo was in different stages of getting dressed and undressed. Hey, man, you ever see my slip drill? Put your pants on first. No, it's a slip drill, you know. But he, you know, and he had the black belt with the 7th degree black belt with the pop rivets in it, you know, that held his stripes into place. Hey, I'm Frank. You're like 16 years old. Hey, nice to meet you, Brian Saul. But then the next day, you know, now we're into kiss the instructor's butt stage, which Frank Trejo wasn't a fan of. Well, I mean, he would take advantage of it, but he didn't really like it, you know, too much. But oh, hey, Mr. Trejo, how you doing, Mr. Trejo? 16-year-old me, Mr. Trejo, how you doing? He looks at me and goes, hey, kid, you want to see my birdie? I'm like, what? You want to see my birdie? And then he proceeded to pull a badminton shuttlecock out of his pocket, showed me his birdie, and then just goes and walked away. That was the whole communication.
I think we were standing at the hotel lobby desk talking to the receptionist, doing whatever we were doing when he came in, and just kind of walked up. I don't even think we saw him at first. I think he just kind of walked up to us and was like, you want to see my birdie? And that's when he pulled it out. He was awesome. He was
That was
absolutely
also
awesome.
that same weekend was the weekend where we walked into the Baltimore camp and we saw this stunningly beautiful woman. We saw this stunningly beautiful woman. So Brian and I walked up to her, we're like, hey, how you doing? And she's like, oh, good. How you doing? You know, said, oh, so we're karate students. What are you doing here? She's like, oh, I'm here with my boyfriend. We're like, oh, who's your boyfriend? She goes, Mark Lawler. And Brian and I said, well, nice to meet you, Gail. Got up, walked away.
Otherwise, you would have seen a Lawler fist shake on the side of a...
That's a new one on me.
Mark Lawler. And I was like, all right, I'm not messing with that. Time to go.
I have to ask Gail about that one.
Yeah, that was the weekend we met Trejo. That was the weekend we met the lovely Mrs. Lawler. A lot of people. Ed Parker Jr. was there. And he told us, he goes, I'm involved in this movie. It's called Dragon, a Bruce Lee Story, he said. It's called Dragon, a Bruce Lee Story. It's not called The Bruce Lee Story because it's loosely based on his life, but a lot of it is fiction. And then a year later, Dragon, The Bruce Lee Story came out, and he played his dad in it, you know? So that was an awesome weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Trejo taught us sticky hands. It was my very first lesson. Go figure. My very first lesson with Frank Trejo was sticky hands. And then at the end of the weekend, we're, bye, Mr. Trejo. Bye, Mr. Trejo. It really was an honor to meet you. Thank you all so much. And I appreciate you, Mr. Trejo. And I stick my hand out to shake his hand. He wraps his thumb around my thumb, locks me up, takes me to my knees, and goes, pain is the greatest method of communication. Walked away. That was the end of my
Your
weekend.
final karate lesson of the weekend.
Yeah. Good old Trejo. Sabora, you haven't told any Trejo stories.
I got a couple, but I have one that I think if Trejo was around, I think would be one of the story that he would like to get off of his chest. So now we've been talking about how he parties so hard when he's here in the East Coast and stuff like that, and we always have a blast with him, of course. One year, I decided to go visit him in California with one of my friends. So this was when the Pasadena school was still open. So I walked in there, and Trejo was on the bench playing guitar while commanding the class. All right, left jab, bob left, bob right, you know, while he's playing. He's just sitting there playing. So, you know, we went there and sat with him. He's like, I'm almost done. We can go out to eat or whatever after. So if you... Angelo, Dan, you guys remember when Trejo was trying to be good? I think that was the first time he actually has a job other than karate. He was engraving headstone or something. You guys remember that?
I remember that.
And stuff. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So he had like carpal tunnel in his hands, stuff like that. So he was trying to be good. So here we are visiting. And I was like, all right, let's go to dinner after class. So he's like, yeah. So me, one of my friend that was with me, Trejo, and Charlie Gonzalez. we went to a nearby Mexican restaurant. I don't remember what it's called. And for the first 20 minutes or so, we're just sitting there talking. And I was like, Trejo, you want a shot? You know, he's like, nah, man, I give up drinking and this and that. I was like, you give up drinking? I was like, okay, just one shot. He's like, no, I'm trying to be good. I got to be up at work at 4 a.m. I was like, all right. Like another 2 minutes go by. Like, all right, I have a shot. You know, so we got some tequila shot for him. I don't do shot, but you know, because it's Trejo, I did it anyway. And so after a couple shots later, he started telling stories and stuff like that. And he was talking about the old days when he used to run the first Pasadena school. I was like, wait a minute, because I never knew the story. He goes, the first Pasadena school. I was like, wait, I thought there's only one Pasadena school. He's like, well, we had 2 of them, and the first one burned down. I was like, what? You know, and that was the first time I ever learned of the first Pasadena school got burned down. And I said, what happened? He goes, I don't want to talk about it. You know? So I don't want to talk about it. And then a couple more shots came in. I said, what happened? You know, he said, all right, you know, so we used to do class, and every Friday after the last class, we would throw parties at the studio, you know, because Mr. Alonzo, Trejo used to teach there, eat, sleep at the studio as well. So every Friday or every weekend, they would have a party and stuff like that. And people from, you know, all over the place come, all of his friends. And apparently one of the girl that he was mingling with, supposedly she was a girlfriend of a local gangster or something like that. So the guy found out, got upset, and set the studio on fire. You know, so make a long story short, as Trejo was telling me this story, he's sobbing. I mean, he was crying. His hand was on his head. He pops up. He tells, you know, a little bit more details, and he blamed himself, you know, for what happened, you know, to this day, if he was still alive, you know, and then he's like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna tell Ed Parker, you know. So the next, you know, Ed Parker came because, you know, fire department and all that stuff. And Trejo, you know, was there, and you know, he was obviously fearful. You know, he went to Mr. Parker, and Mr. Parker looked at him. He's like, Frank, don't worry, it's a blessing in disguise. You know, so I think at that time, Mr. Parker was having some IRS issues. You know, so when the school burned down, I guess all the record, gone. You know, so that's what I was told, you know, and a couple of people, you know, that was there around that time did verify it. You know, how it happened exactly, I'm not sure, but that was the story.
No, that's a true story. That's a true story, Segura. We went over that story with Frank many times, and you know, he's not proud of it, and a lot of people don't know. They still don't know what happened.
Like I said, he blamed himself, and he, you know, I mean, he was bawling. I was like, dude, I'm here to have fun and just make Frank Trejo cry. You know, he was crying, and so, you know, me and my friend Brian, I always tell him, you know, that story. It's like, hey man, I made Frank Trejo cry. You know, you know. But anyway,
tell you what, Frank Trejo is one of the toughest dudes I ever met. He was a fighter. He was Frank Trejo. We all know that, but nobody cried more than Frank Trejo.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you said that, Dan, because I was just going to say, for as big as he was name-wise, and you know, everything that he brought to the table, badass dude, he was a teddy bear.
Yep.
He was a big teddy bear.
Yep. And then,
you know, what's funny is he had the tattoo, right? I have the Trejo tattoo on my arm, right? So Trejo had that like half a sleeve on his arm, and I just started getting work done on this side, and I said to him, I go, yeah, I have it done on the outside, and what I was going to say is you got to get it done on the inside, because guys who don't have tattoos on the inside look like sissies because it hurts too much. That's what I was going to say. I said to Trejo, I said, yeah, I have it done on the outside. And then he turned his around and his wasn't done on the inside. And I already said, like, because guys that don't have the inside done, and I just literally went, are like the coolest guys around. And he let it go. He let it go. But then Angelo, you told me afterwards, you said, no, man, that hurt too much. I couldn't do it.
He said.
Frank Trejo. We're talking about Frank Trejo.
But if you notice it, if you look at it, you can see where he started to do it. And then he said no more. He couldn't handle it anymore.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, good old Trejo. Wow.
There's another one. Here's another one. When we were at Scott Halsey's camp, we went up there to teach, and it was a rough time. And this was when Frank was just starting to get sick. He wasn't feeling too good. And so he had to teach a kids seminar. And Frank was like, what the fuck am I going to teach? So he sat down and he goes, okay, we're going to have a special lesson today. I'm going to teach you guys how to talk smack. And so what he did is he taught all these 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds how to talk smack to the opponent before you fight them in the tournament. So he spent the whole hour teaching them to say it about their mom, their dog, their face, telling them, hey, I'm going to kick you. I'm going to squash you like a bean. And I got this whole thing on video, guys. I'll put it up so you guys can watch it. And you see these little kids, and Frank's like, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. So the next day, the next day at the tournament, Scott Halsey comes running up to me and goes, what the hell's going on? All my kids are almost getting disqualified. Too much shit. I go, dude, Trejo taught a seminar last night on how to talk smack. And Halsey's like, oh, my God, all my kids are just walking around talking to everybody. And so Frank just took the rap for it. He goes, man, they got to learn how to talk smack. And so, it's a great video. And he taught these kids so much. And I remember Scott Halsey just having a hard time with it. But at the end of the night, it was a fun tournament and a fun experience. With Frank.
I've never heard that story, Angelo, but I can absolutely picture Trejo doing this.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I've got it on video. I will put it up for you guys to watch. It is classic.
And two things. Number one, Frank Trejo loves Scott Halsey.
Oh, yeah.
Frank Trejo loves Scott Halsey. Years before I met Scott Halsey, I knew his name because Trejo used to talk about him all the time. But number two, I was fortunate enough to see that video, and it's funny because Trejo's teaching these kids to talk smack, and there's these beautiful little kids, and then he got the little kids talking smack, and I'm like, man, these are some mean-ass little kids.
Yes, I got a small story. We always, the three brothers, me and my two brothers, we always had so much respect for Mr. Trejo, and we always thought that he was there is not enough spotlight on him because we felt like Mr. Palazzo, Mr. Palanis, they just took the spotlight and they took it and ran with it. And so we went to a couple of seminars with Mr. Trejo. We just sit down and do nothing. My brothers and I, we're just tigers. We beat the crap out of each other, fall down and get up and do it. So he just smiled and looked at us, and all of a sudden he came in and he said he volunteered to show us the technique. And like you said, Dan, he was very much in control. I know he got so much power, but he was so much in control with his strikes that he would move you, but he will not hurt you. And then the most that he was impressive to us, that he moved so smooth, because he was, at that time, he was way overweight. And we didn't even believe that he could move that smooth with this much weight on him. So after he showed us the maneuvers that he was showing us, we stood, all three of us, and we gave him a complete salute, And that always left an impression. That's the only story I got.
Yeah, he was. Well, you know what the thing is, though, Monty, is that he had excellent control. He had excellent control, which means you knew when he was pissed at you.
Yeah.
Although because of his stature, I remember there was this, I think it may have been the same camp as the sandwich in that hotel conference room story. I think he was teaching a ground fighting seminar at that camp.
Yeah, he put me in the guard for that one.
That's where I was going, because I remember he demonstrated something on me, and he had me on top of him, right? And And then he's talking, and he's like, and you got to lock the arm, and you got to poke the heel around the leg, and you got to push him, and you flip him over, and he flips me over, and he gets on top of me, and he's talking everything through this, and you got to make sure, and underneath, because he's a big dude, I'm sitting there going, God, I can't breathe. God, I'm like tapping him. He's ignoring me because he's talking to everybody, but I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I'm taking all the Frank Trejo. And he finally got off. I thought it was going to pass out. I remember that.
I think that time he got me in the guard, right? So he lays back. My feet came off the ground while he's got his leg hooked on me, right? And he's explaining. I'm laying on top of Frank Trejo. And while he's talking to the class, I'm like, man, please don't feel his penis. That's all I can think of. You know, don't feel his penis. Just hang in there. You know. And then when you know, and then we go to the top mount, right? We go to the top mount. So he puts me on top. And at that time, he was so big. I was like maybe 150 at that time. I was on top of Trejo with the full mount, but I'm not mounting. I'm like just sitting on him. My leg was in the split. You know, my feet didn't even touch the ground. You know, I was like in a split position trying to be on top of him. I don't know why you picked me, but anyway, I remember that class.
So that triggered a memory of, you know, talking about Frank Trejo and being a little bit fresh. There was another night. Brian and I were rooming with Trejo. We had many a night where we roomed with Trejo all over the world, you know. But it was late, and Frank Trejo, when it would get late, would start to get a little "I love you" drunk. So it's time to go to
your
bed.
forehead.
It's time to go to bed, and Trejo, all right, Danny, come here. I love you, Danny, and he's giving me a hug, and he's giving me a hug. He gives me a kiss, right? And he gives me a kiss, and then he gives me another kiss, and I know what's coming, so I drop, and he gives me a kiss, and then a kiss, and a kiss, and then I get up and I walk over to where the like the sink is, the sink area is in every hotel room, right? And then I hear it happening on the other side of the room. I love you too, Mr. Frank. I love you, Brian. You know, and they're hugging, and then Brian comes walking around the corner like this.
But there was no tongue penetration.
No. He was a gentleman about it. He
So he swore me to secrecy that I could never reveal the answer to that.
Yeah. That was when he wanted us to call him Uncle Frank.
One time when Frank was up here for my fight weeks, we used to do these fight weeks. And so we're getting ready to go to the airport. We're at the Delta having breakfast. And I said, Frank, what time is your flight at? He looks, he goes, I think it's 11. And then he goes, huh? And I goes, what's huh? I think I fucked up. So I said, let me see the itinerary. And it leaves at 8:30 from London to Detroit. And then at 11, you go Detroit to LA. And now it's like, you know, 10 to 8. I said, yeah, we're going to the airport. So we get to the airport in London. They said, it's too late. You can't go on there. It's on the tarmac. You can't go on. Trejo says, what am I going to do? And I said, I'm going to put you in my vehicle. We're going to drive like we've never driven to Detroit to get your connecting. So we get on my car. We're just booting it down so we can get to the 11 o'clock connection. We get to the border. I said, Frank, get your ID out. So I got my ID, and Frank's going through his luggage. And I said, where's your ID? Oh, I can't find it. So the border person said, and this is not a nice border person for the U.S., they said, passports. So Frank said, I can't find it. And they said, pull over. So we pull over. They bring us in, and they come in. I had these two, remember those Expando sticks that expand out? They're titanium. I forgot I had them in my vehicle, and they're illegal back then. So they said, you go in that room, you go in that room. So we're east of the room. They're drilling us. We come out of the room, and Frank says, we're going to jail. And the guy says, you can get back in your vehicle, go across the border and drop these off, and then you can go. Frank says, keep them. So we get in the vehicle. I get him to the airport, right to the front door. I get out. I said, Frank, I'm going to run you right in. The lady said, "Oh, you're just on time." Okay, Frank, big hug. Bye, Frank.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, he was.
I want to share one other one. This was, an old story that Palazzo told me. I thought it was pretty cool. This was mid 80s or sometime when Trejo broke his neck the first time. You guys remember that time frame?
Mhm.
84.
Yeah. So he went to, or Ed Parker, Joe Palazzo, Lee Wetlake, and all, Huck and all these guys, they all went to a tournament and seminar somewhere in Chicago. And Trejo hurt his neck, so he couldn't go. So everybody left and went to the event, and then Trejo decided to go, and he's not supposed to travel, with his neck, with his broken neck. But he took a flight over there anyway, got there, and when he got to the hotel, he couldn't stand up, he couldn't lay down, he couldn't do nothing. So he kind of crawled over onto the bed and just lay there for a while. And then after the pain kind of subsided a little bit, he got up and started walking. And Mr. Parker was, next to him. And Mr. Parker looked at Frank Trejo and said, "Come on, Trejo, walk it off." Bam! He heel palmed Trejo in the back with the broken neck. So Trejo just like froze and dropped to the ground. And Lee Wetlake and Palazzo grabbed him, picked him up, and walked him to his bed and lay him back down again.
Wow.
So I was like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. He's told a few stories about that. I took second place.
You know what the funny thing is, guys? You ever get asked, who do you think moves the most like Ed Parker? In all your experience, who do you think the guy is? And there's a lot of people out there that move great. We all know that. But in my opinion, having seen Ed Parker and having been hit by him, Frank moved the most like Ed Parker if you put them side by side and have them go off. And, Frank, and I don't know about California, but out here he never got credit for that much. We all, because he tended to teach boxing stuff and related that to Kempo, man. But when he moved, in my opinion, he was the guy that was the most like Ed Parker in terms of speed, accuracy, flow of technique. I guess you could say it's body type. They're both big guys, but you never hear people say that, and I think it's an oversight.
I agree.
Yeah, I was thinking out somebody was so when Monty was saying earlier about how smooth he moved as a big guy. I mean, Frank Trejo moved incredible as a big guy, and that's just a testament to how unbelievably incredible he moved when he was skinny. That video, him in Chile banging out those techniques where he does it and then he just kind of steps on the guy as he walks by. If you remember that, that guy
looks just like Ed Parker.
Mm-hmm. If you see him do Form 3 and Form 4, smooth. Back in the day, you guys seen that on video?
Yeah, you ever see him do breakdance Form 4? Yeah. Apparently somebody did it in the internationals, and Trejo loved it back in the 80s, and Trejo loved it. You see Trejo, he would, and then and what he would do, he would go. And then he always had that one too. Anyways, all right, I got to go, fellas, because
that's the Dennis Posey.
Dennis.
Hey.
That's awesome.
I miss that dude.
I really do. All right, I gotta share this one too, real quick. This is the one I couldn't share earlier. I'm gonna say it quick. So Frank Trejo did a seminar at our studio. This is the second time I ever met Frank Trejo. We met him in Maryland, and then he did a seminar at our studio. And he had a reputation as being a party guy. So I asked him, "Where are you staying?" And he told us his hotel room. Right, and this is 1992-ish, 92 maybe. Right, so we all go out to the bar, and then Joe B, my original instructor, drives Trejo back to his hotel room, and Joe B couldn't be bothered, so he went home. My ride was this girl I had a crush on. this girl I had a crush on, we get in the car and she looks at me and she goes, "You know we're not going home, right?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And she goes, "We're going to Frank Trejo's room." I was scared. And I hid behind her, you know? And it turns out the reason why I didn't want to share this too much is because I might get emotional. That girl turned to be my wife, you know, and the mother of my 2 children. But anyway, the first time I ever hung out with Frank Trejo, not on the mat, just us. Of all the people, it could have been my wife and I. She brought us in, and that Trejo used to love telling a story, and there was a few of them that kind of got blended together because Brian and I did. After my wife gave me the guts to approach Frank Trejo off the mat, Brian and I would do this too. We walk up, knock on the door. "Mr. Trejo, can you let us in? We have beer," right? So Chrissy and I are standing at the door. I'm not, "Mr. Trejo, we're from Joe Bridenstine School. We wanted to see if you wanted to hang out." And I'm totally into this girl. And Trejo opens up the door. He opens up the door and jumps out immediately. Like that. I got a 6-pack of beer in my hand. I almost dropped it. I was like, And then we had an amazing night. And in the middle of the night, there's just us. And then this guy, I think his name was Ed Wilson. David, I don't know if you know. I think his name was Ed Wilson. He's a Kempo, New England guy. I might be getting his name wrong. But anyway, this guy calls up and Frank Trejo starts talking to him. So Chrissy, just to enhance the experience, starts going, "Frank, come back to bed, Frank. Frank, I'm getting cold. Come back." And he's talking to this guy on the phone. He's like, "Inserting the rod." You know, making those types of jokes. "Frank, come back to bed." And finally, he doesn't pull the phone away from his face, but he turns around and looks at Chrissy and goes, "Shut up before I smack you." You know? We're all... That's the first time I hung out with Frank Trejo socially. So
Awesome.
Yeah. Love you, Frank. Miss you.
Yep.
Merry Christmas, you guys.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas
Merry
to
Christmas,
all.
guys.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Christmas.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, Sebastian, good to see you.
Awesome
man.
story.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas to
Sebastian,
you.
good to see you.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks so much.
All right, no
Thank you.
spoilers.
Have a
but
great
Sebastian,
holiday, guys.
Did you see The Mandalorian?
Oh, yeah.
How awesome was the finale?
Right? I'm kind of excited
Amazing.
for the Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I won't say anything else. But I know that's something you and I share. Sebastian and I share a love for bourbon and Star Wars.
There you go.
All right, guys. Salute.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Guys,
Merry
salute.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
And Lou and Matt. And
It was a good idea.
Take care, everybody. Happy holidays.
Take
Merry
care.
Christmas.
Love you
Merry
guys.
Christmas.
Happy
The one-
holidays, everyone.
The version that we end up posting is going to be about 45 minutes long, by the way.